Hello. This is Thursday, July 24th, and we're talking about the power of the erotic tonight. We have a small group, I guess for multiple reasons. And Marco's kind of in the background there because now he seems to have gotten a cold. So anyway, there's only the four of us, but we're still going to just plow ahead. So we'll just start with our introductions and um, let's. I I forgot I had planned an icebreaker and now I've kind of forgotten what it was. So um, let's just do uh, our names and pronouns and do you have do you have a creative hobby or pastime? And so I'm Carol, she, her, and just I have just in the last few years started up a rather primitive painting hobby. It makes me very happy. Marco, how about you?
Okay. Yes, but
Oh goodness.
uh, no
You're okay. You're Marco, he, him. Do you have a creative hobby?
book.
You like books? Okay. Um, okay, Suzette, you're muted.
Sorry, I have 4 dogs and they just seem to want to bark during God talk. Um, my creative hobby, I'm Suzette, she, her, and I have always wanted to paint, Carol. Um, but I have dabbled in jewelry making. When I had knee surgery, had a knee replacement, I was down for 3 months. And I mean, I was bored out of my mind. So I learned how to make jewelry. And then I thought, I'm going to do this for a living because it makes me happy. And then I found out that the Chinese could also make really pretty jewelry and sell it a lot cheaper than me. So I gave it up as some way to make money, but I do it for fun. So I like to make stuff.
That's lovely. Yeah, that's the best way to do things. Okay.
Here's
Okay.
mine.
My name is Kate, and as of last night, I realized my pronoun is they, them.
Nice.
I didn't know that my whole life until then, but uh, my hobbies now, I retired a couple years ago, are working in the yard, gardening, my teardrop camper.
Nice.
And I've got 3 campouts scheduled September, October, and November. So I'm
Fun times.
looking forward to that.
That's beautiful. May I just delve a little deeper and ask how you found out that your
I
pronoun
will.
they
Carol,
them?
let me just grab the book from the book club.
Oh, okay.
That's always a good place to start, right? When
Yeah.
something enlightens you.
Well, this is the most banned book in America.
Mm,
Put it in front of your face and it yeah,
yeah.
genderqueer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And it was a 2-week book study with the book club on Wednesdays. And I've, I don't know if you've read this or not, but it's all in cartoons,
Mm,
uh, cartoon written because the author writes that way. But it's about a young girl who grows up and she struggles with being non-binary her whole life growing up. And it's the things that she goes through and experiences in society. And I realized that I related to almost everything that she went through. when I was younger. I'm in my 60s now, but when I was in my teens, 20s, 30s, and on, I struggled with my identity. I never felt like I was a complete woman mentally, although I didn't think I was a man, but um, like the example she gave about the clothes she wore and that she wanted to wear boys' clothes and that she went out to the pool as a young child without her shirt on. And, her mom ran up and they all said, "You've got to put a shirt on." Uh, and I even went to a counselor when I was in my 20s. And I said, "I'm struggling with my identity." And it never went another word after that because I guess, that was what, 40 years ago. Nobody was talking about that in in my area where I was or where I grew up. Uh, so the last 2 weeks going through this book and with our group on Wednesdays, uh, I just realized, I'm pretty sure I'm non-binary.
That is a beautiful revelation, and that is a perfect introduction into our topic about the erotic as power, because I mean there are many ways that people think about the word erotic, and I'm going a lot from this seminal but still revolutionary article written by Audre Lorde back in the late 1970s, and and it just talks about the erotic as power, and um and I think it has a lot to do with finding yourself, finding what's important to you, what your passions are, what brings you joy and happiness and pleasure, and and I think that certainly includes the sexual, but it also, but it goes way beyond that in my understanding of the word, or at least as I'm using it tonight. Um, so, what comes to mind when when y'all think of the word erotic?
I always thought of erotic as being a good thing, in like that's maybe something that is part of being a grown up that we're supposed to learn to enjoy, like being sexual and having a sexual identity and being a sexual being. And in my age group as well, expressing myself or expressing yourself as a sexual person really wasn't encouraged. So I think a lot of people did it in a deviant way, like not talking about it. But as time went by and queer people became more mainstream, they brought out the erotic. They brought out like how your sexuality should be celebrated and what that could look like. And it's not always dirty. It can be joyful and it can have yeah, it could be something that you develop, and perhaps some people maybe like I remember when I was in my 20s being with someone who I got invited to this I got invited to a sex toy party, okay? And at that time I wasn't out, right? Or I wasn't even like in my own mind going there. But I went to this party and, we passed devices around and oils and, things like that. And I've never seen anything like this before. And then we got to that Karma Sutra stuff, and I was just like, whoa, what's that? Ooh, someone's supposed to give you pleasure? What's that? So it didn't open a whole new world for me, but it just made me think about it in a different way. Like, there's people out there that enjoy sex and sexuality and being sexual without it being dirty, you know? And it still was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek party, like, hey, are you going to that exotic party, or whatever it was called. I don't remember what it was called, but it
Toy
got
party is what we
pretty,
always called them, toy parties.
yeah. Um, but it doesn't seem like it's really, I mean, in my world, I don't see a whole lot of it. If I want to find eroticism, I got to go look for it. So it's not just like right out there in front of me, like for me to just go, oh, today I'm gonna have toast and this erotic thing, and make it be about something that's ingrained in my life or in the woven into the fabric of who I am. No, I'm 62 and send me a book, Carol.
So I think that breakfast can be erotic. You're like, I'm not gonna have toast and eroticism, but I think you can. Let me say a little bit about I'm just gonna read you some of the phrases. Just kind of open up and just listen and see if this speaks to you at all. These are just some of the phrases from Audre Lorde's article. And she says that do y'all know who Audre Lorde is? She's a famous Black lesbian poet. And uh, I actually got this book because I was trying to order a book of her poetry, and I thought this was a book of her poetry, but it isn't. She has just some other articles that are just essays. Um, Sweetie, I'll get you some more cough medicine in a minute. Just keep drinking your fluids, please. Um, but anyway, she's just a very, she was very, um, uh,
She was woke for her time and
she was,
in all
yeah,
kinds of ways.
yeah, she was just a catalyst for, for female
Mind
voices,
blowing.
for queer voices, for people of color. She's just she's just incredible. And anyway, but and she writes about a lot of things besides the erotic, of course. But that's one of the things that I just don't think anybody's sense has gotten to the heart of it like she does. Um, and she says the erotic is a resource within each of us that lies in the deeply female and spiritual plane. Um, and I was thinking about that when, as as I think back on some of the things that I said in are some of the subjects that I touched on in the sermon. Um, on Sunday, I was um, like when I first came into Resurrection. I mean, I was not identifying as anything but straight at that point. I came in with a friend that I had traveled to the area with, um, at that was really the first out lesbian that I'd had a long conversations with, you know, and 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 just the vibrancy of the church just caught me. And one of the things that impressed me was just like people holding hands. And it wasn't just that it was that I wasn't used to seeing same-sex couples hold hands. I wasn't used to seeing anyone hold hands in church. Not too often anywhere else. Really, I mean, I just, you know, but in church particularly, I mean, even married couples didn't show that much that affection that often. It just wasn't. I think that's a big part of our culture, and just so marrying that with a church, and so I had a really um, um, that created like when I did come out, I guess you'd say it seemed a smoother transition for me, because it was so tied in to the spiritual, and um, and just because you know anyway. um but so that's one sentence that she said about the erotic. She doesn't give just like a quick definition. The whole article is like a definition. um but she says the very word erotic comes from the word eros, the personification of love in all its aspects, creative power and harmony. um it's an assertion of the life force of women, that creative energy empowered, the nursemaid or nurturer of all of our deepest knowledge. So, Kate, I think that really speaks to like you learning about yourself, and um, and she also talks about it as the sharing of joy, and she she says that joy itself forms a bridge between the people who are sharing. And so it's like you're getting connected to yourself, and then you're sharing that with another human being. Um, and she specifically says that it's just about being open and fearless in that opening, and that it can that it can be an erotically satisfying experience, whether it's dancing or building a bookcase or writing a poem or examining an idea. Those are all examples of erotic actions, or can be. Can be. Yes.
I um since there's nobody else here, I'm gonna chit chat. But
Yeah.
and then the boys that aren't here, I'm sure they would have something to say about this, but I always saw that men expected women to be erotic so that they could partake in being erotic, like put on the negligee or, throw on some high heels or whatever made them feel like erotic, right? But I had an experience with someone who came to visit for a weekend and she brought a feather. I almost freaked out. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't do feathers. Feathers aren't part of who I am. Okay. So put that feather away. I don't know what you're doing with that. But it's like, you're just triggering these memories that I had of myself going, holy crap. I'm not this person, or I hadn't explored that part of who I am yet. And it's like, oh, wow, there's all this out there that I didn't really consider me personally partaking in. But, I still haven't purchased a feather, but it was an interesting surprise for me.
It,
And I'm like, the hell?
you're making me think about fried green tomatoes in that class.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Have you ever looked in a mirror? It is just,
Yeah, but I think what you started out talking about um, um, is is okay. I think the erotic is innately sensual. In other words, it fills your
right.
senses. Like a feather is definitely a way to kind of explore sensual, sensations. Although all those words are kind of similar.
I mean, that feather could have changed my life. I don't know. I just didn't try it.
But the Audre Lorde also makes the point that the erotic has been misnamed by men and used against women. And I think expecting a woman to dress up and arouse them is definitely a misuse. And that is not what we're talking about with the erotic. She says it has been made into the confused, the trivial, the psychotic, the plasticized sensation. And so this makes the point, I think, that that erotic and pornographic are opposites.
Mhm.
Can you see that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because when you brought up power at the very beginning, power with being sexual can be good and it can be bad. Like,
Yes. We
that's
don't
what.
want power over, we want
Mm,
power with.
right,
That is that
right,
is the heart, I think, for me, of spirituality and sexuality. Power over is um
not
is
what we want.
for me, that's a big turn off. Um, you want that equality. You want to empower each other. Even if I mean, there people have fantasy situations where where there's power, like dominatrix or something like that.
Put the jumper cables away.
But I mean those kind of situations. I mean, but I mean even uh, you know, BDSM can be equal. It can be if you feel safe, it that I mean that's the only way that I think that people should ever engage in something adventurous for them
Right,
is if they feel
right,
safe. You clearly didn't
right.
feel safe with a feather. And
Oh,
so
I'm
uh,
supposed to.
so but yeah, that's a very important dynamic, not having power over. That would be the opposite. I think another way to think about it is that the pornographic is about sensation, and the erotic is about deep feeling, deep internal feeling, not just um, superficial sensation that's here and gone. So, um, but what you said about the guys being about not being any males present today besides Marco, um, who I hope develops a healthy sense of the difference between the erotic and the pornographic, but it may be a lifetime work. Anyway, yes.
Eroticism takes time. So, you have to be able to, if you want that sensuality in your experience, you have to almost, I mean, you almost have to plan for it because, most people, it's not something that most people think about. So it's kind of, if you want to open that door, you have to explore it and you have to give time to it. It doesn't just happen instantly. And I think the less that we are exposed to it, um, the more awkward it feels. So I think taking the right amount of time and, you know, embracing it mentally and emotionally with your partner or with whoever you're with, is something that you have to do to make sure that even if it's a positive thing, that both of you are okay and feel good about it, that it's not weird or strange or something you wouldn't do. So I think it takes a special kind of person to embrace that.
Yeah, I think again, I think you're talking not only about the safety that we mentioned a minute ago, but you're also talking about emotional intimacy. And
But that's part of it. right?
Yeah, I think that is absolutely part of it. And what about people that are are non-partnered? That, you know, how do we explore, uh, I mean, how can we be empowered by eroticism like she's talking about? And some of it may come from just um, past experiences. I think once you really get to that heart of that deep inner knowing and that passion, I mean, what we're talking about is passion. So, I mean, passion can be sexual, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, I feel very passionate about painting. um I and it's sensual. I like the feel of, that's why I like acrylics, because they have texture and as well as color, and I like the feel of the brush, um you know, that kind of thing. Some people feel passionate about their careers, but I think we get to it by, I mean, first, I think we have to find that deep knowing in ourselves. We have to kind of figure out who we are. But so many of us learn, first, we kind of bounce off our, um, our ideas. We play out who we're becoming, by within our relationships. With, I mean, not just intimate relationships, but also our friends, our coworkers, people like that. We kind of, you know, we're like, oh yeah, this is fun to be this person, and as we kind of learn who we are and develop our personalities, and then at some point we need to get back to just, wait a minute, who am I without worrying about what anybody else thinks? Who am I really deep down on the inside? And, you know, sometimes that takes a lifetime to figure
Some
out.
people never get to that. And
Yeah.
I love your analogy of using a paintbrush, because there's somebody at our church that's a nude model who I know that those people that are painting her or drawing her are doing it with some sort of eroticism. You're not just coldly sketching or painting, right? You have to feel that other person. So I think that's another really great example that you just brought to us about, how you can explore it without having to be with another person per se, but it should still include another person. I don't know. I don't know how else you would see it without it being with another person.
Well, what I said about the sharing of joy, um, Audrey says that that forms a bridge between the sharers. So, um, I don't know. Sometimes I think, like, when I'm, uh, like, like painting by by myself, of course, I'm not, I, I still, but I still have other people in my mind, you know, and it's something like, when I first got real into painting, um, like I bought my friend and neighbor, for her birthday, I bought her a bunch of paints. And she's just like, I don't know, I'm not this guy, you know, that's not my gig. And uh and I wanted to share it. It was just bubbling up out of me. That I wanted to share that joy. And you know, I think some people feel that way about spirituality. That's in some of um our, like, it only takes a spark. You know that church camp song. You know, you want to share. So I mean, it's not that passion, or eroticism can't be experienced in isolation, but but I think having that connection to build on from what we learned from um, from our relationships, maybe primarily from our sexual relationships, is what we build on with that. Kate?
I also grew up in a very conservative home, and my parents never showed affection in front of us. In fact, one time I remember I was probably 11 or 12 or 13, and I walked in and my mom and dad were sitting on the couch watching TV, and my dad had his arm around her. As soon as I walked in, he took it away. And I thought that was kind of strange, but um, I have a couple of examples of things I think when I think about erotica, or like the video uh, that Suzette shared on Facebook of this woman who was dancing, and she was a belly dancer, and she was a little bit overweight, which I prefer women a little bit overweight, but she was so erotic. And a lot of people wouldn't say she was beautiful, but her presence, and you'll have to send her that. Carol, you'll have to look for that video.
Okay.
But I was mesmerized by, and that I would picture that when I think about that. And also, my spouse and I, Gail, we've been together 33 years and married for 11 when it became legal. But throughout our relationship, she can look at me straight in the eyes, where your eyes are locked, and it still gives me a physical reaction. And that is another example, I would say, is it goes beyond sexual, because you're not even touching. And the third thing that I think, and I'm just learning this lately, getting involved in your groups, that I never had the relationships with people that were on a level where, you have coworkers or friends that you go out, but nothing on a level where, you feel such a strong love. I have had really good friends, and the thing about these virtual groups, we're thousands of miles apart, but like our Wednesday group, it almost feels like we're family.
Yes.
Literally, these are the people who care about you. Because my entire family, my siblings, except my brother who's gay, he lives in Key West, but my other two siblings in their household, my brother in his household, he's in charge of his household, and my sister also, and I've never agreed with that, but um, those are examples that I think of, and I don't know if those are correct or not, or if it's just different for everyone.
I didn't catch what you said you don't agree with.
No, I said I don't know I don't agree with the one person being in charge of the other person in a relationship, that one person controls and that the other person is beneath them.
Yes, I think that that absolutely is not what I would consider a healthy
Mhm.
uh, or or spiritual type relationship, and I don't think that um, that being equal is not having power over, having power with is, I think, one of the keys to eroticism, as well as um, to just a healthy intimacy.
Well, and just to be a free individual,
Yes,
even if you're in a marriage or a partnership, nobody's in charge of me.
right,
I've always been that way.
right. My mother used to say that, oh, the man is the head of a household,
Yeah.
but I mean, that she said it, but she was the head of our household. She would never publicly disagree with my dad, but I mean, she also said um, uh, that they they worked out all their major disagreements before I was born. That's what she said when I was a teenager, but I tripped their triggers, and I think they had some disagreements about me after that time. But anyway, um, but um, hi Lynn, and also I never said hi Mona, but anyway, we're talking about the power of the erotic. So so in those definitions that we've come up with about joy and about finding that creative energy, um, how 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 do you see that as empowering? I also have another book that I just started reading. I haven't gotten very far on it. It's called Pleasure Activism, and it just came to me. There was this box that said free, take if you're interested, and this was the only book left in there. But but there's a couple of sentences in there like when I am happy, it is good for the world. How would you do you agree with that, and how do you see that happening? Anyone? Yeah, go, Kate.
Uh, I think if you're happy, it does benefit the world because of your interactions with people. Uh, if you're sad or angry, uh, or disappointed, you would probably just stay to yourself and not offer, kindness or show love towards others if you're going through other emotions.
I think um I wonder I wonder what Audre Lorde would say to that. I think that the experience of eroticism encompasses all emotions. I mean, you're right, I did specifically talk about joy, but I think in getting to know ourselves, I think eroticism includes the whole palette of emotions. You know, joy and grief uh,
Mhm.
and all of that, um, and allowing ourselves to feel that. I think, like when we're thinking about justice work, um, I can't imagine putting myself out on the line very much if I didn't have some rage
Mhm.
about what I wanted to change in the world, have some grief over what was um, what was bothering me so much. in the world, and that creates a passion for justice.
Mhm.
So I don't know, did that?
That does make sense. And also, if you don't experience all of your emotions and see them all as good and not bad, then you're really, I guess, not experiencing your full potential
Yes.
to contribute to society.
Yes, and think about how much art, how many great songs, how many beautiful things have come out of sadness
Mhm.
and even out of anger. Um, just yeah, I think when we pour, maybe that's a big part of eroticism is just taking those feelings, that those feelings become embodied, and and when we recognize those feelings, we're getting way below the surface,
Mhm.
um, like different than we were talking about sensation. Yeah, we get way below the surface into those emotions and use those to express our passion. Whether we're talking about sexually or whether we're talking about art or whether we're talking about our career. Um, Suzette, I know you've had some very creative career ideas. Um, I'm thinking goat cheese and stuff like that, as well as like the online church. But I mean that takes a lot of
But
getting to know
that's normal,
yourself.
right?
Yeah, I mean it's beautiful. Yes, it is beautiful. And I mean
It's
we think
like
of
I'm
creative.
finally at that place in my life where I'm I'm not just working to survive, right?
Yes, yes,
I'm working to find those little tiny bits of life that I can dot in now, and back when I was in college, we talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And the top of it was self-actualization. So whatever that means for you in this conversation, right? That should be part of it.
yes, yes. Um,
Cheese is my pyramid, the top of the pyramid for me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah. Um, One of the things that I started to ask earlier, but I never quite got around to forming the question, um, and not having any outspoken men in the group. No, no offense, Marco. Um, um, so the first thing I said was that the erotic lies in a deeply female and spiritual plane. And I think we think of creative energies as being female, obviously, because the female body can hold life, can create life, in according to like ancient thought. And but I mean it also says that this is something that the erotic is obviously something that's available for everyone. So what does that mean? I think to me it means recognizing both the the female and male aspects of ourselves, and perhaps um, a newly defined non-binary person could could speak to that the best. Just I mean, what a beautiful way to acknowledge the yin and yang within, um as to.
Carol, I forgot what your question is. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to answer.
Yes, I'm not sure I phrased it very well, but I guess so. If the erotic, if this creative energy um is is female in just its very nature, then what does that say to to the males?
Mhm. Wow. Hmm.
Can
I'm
we
not,
even answer that from our perspective?
I'm not sure I could speak on that because I'm not sure I could separate one from the other as far as uh, the males, the male characteristics or the female, because I've never really identified completely as either. So I guess I'm just in a group by myself because when I think about uh, the subject, I I can't divide what it would feel like either on either side.
Right. Okay. Okay. And I think that's one of the um, beautiful lessons of um, people who are genderqueer, as the book title calls it. But it is learning to get rid of our dualistic thinking, our binaries, our, this is good, this is bad, this is male, this is female. And just to recognize that there is such a spectrum of everything, not, but certainly gender. There's just, what a beautiful thing to recognize and bring to our world. Yeah. Um,
But just talking about it, just bringing light to it gives us the opportunity to expand ourselves in places where maybe we want to go and we just don't know how, or we've had a bad past experience with it and someone can show us a good current experience or something. So it's really good to have these conversations so that we develop understandings and we develop depth in our own selves so that we can analyze things in with new light shining on it. So I think it's really important because Carol knows how I feel about her stuff when she talks about this stuff. She we've been doing this for 2 years, and whenever she gets crazy on me and talks about God and eroticism and stuff, I just shut down like, "Oh my God, what are you doing, Carol?" But you know, we were created in God's image, and apparently this is this is just a part of it, one of
This
the
is,
many things to unpack.
well, this is the first time I've ever talked about it my whole life. And
wow.
and that's what's so great about your group is you approach topics that I never even dreamt of exploring, but I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot in both the classes, but I know I'm new to this class, but I'm looking forward to, learning from you all because evidently I've
Tears
had a
in my-
sheltered life.
I have tears in my eyes that that you shared with us. So just wow, I just feel honored. That
Well, it's been an awakening for sure.
beautiful.
And there's no time like now to be awakened.
Yeah.
And I don't think our age has any limits to it. And
Right.
that's the best part about it is, you know, I'm not looking in the mirror to decide how I'm going to think today. I'm looking inside, right? So that's why I love this group because it takes me places where I don't get to go very often. And I'm a super thinking kind of person, and I miss intellectual conversation. I miss having a forum where I can like say exactly what I think and feel, and I'm not going to get kicked out, or I haven't been yet, but you know, it's just to me, it's very freeing. And sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I'm so tired. It's gonna be 6:30 soon, but you know what? I just flip on the Zoom and Carol's there, and I'm like, I get to do God Talk tonight. So it's my family makes fun of me, but I don't care.
So glad you're here. And I love what you brought up about being made in God's image and yeah, how we're all reflecting just different little pieces of that and yeah, I don't think there's anything about God that is boring or binary or or it's just it makes me think of like a gigantic disco ball with a billion different little mirrors and we're all just reflecting one little piece of that. Um so how beautiful that you brought us to that at the end and what a loving um what a loving God we have. So we are near the end of we're at the end of our time. So Suzette, would you like to
Can I practice my new singing bowl with you? And I'll end with that. I'm not good at it yet, but I have to hold it like this. Holy God, thank you for bringing us here tonight to God Talk to be honest with ourselves and to learn that there are depths to explore that we didn't realize existed. And thank you for allowing us to explore this in a free environment where judgment is withheld and we can still feel holy and we can still feel like we are at your feet, ready to hear what you have to tell us. So I appreciate this conversation as it brought to me a new perspective on something that has been uncomfortable to me in my life. And I hope it opens doors for you guys. Um, in Jesus's many names we pray, and in the faith that we bring to each other. Amen.
Amen. Wow, beautiful, beautiful.
I'm gonna play with this.
That was a great
Just got
talk.
it. Thank you.